Hey, Beasties here, and welcome back to the VDL-V Create Season 8. Once again, I am here to do my draft analysis video, and once again, I decided to do a monotype team. Before the draft, I considered quite a few types, and I kind of narrowed down to these right before the draft. In big part, namely just the four at the bottom, in Ghost, Ice, Ground, and Electric. I was particularly interested in Ghost, mainly because it has the immunity to normal and fighting coverage. In addition, there's some really good tier 1 mons and some good trick room and a lot of Pokemon that fill similar tasks. So you don't have to worry too much about that, people stealing your picks. I considered Ice, namely because weather modes are very powerful and Ice is a very good offensive typing. And in addition, not many people value Ice Pokemon highly, and so I feel like it was easier for me to not get people to steal my picks that I wanted. Ground was another weather mode that I thought was pretty interesting, in addition to having an immunity. And then finally, Electric, having only one weakness, in addition to having a lot of very fast Pokemon and in a terrain as a good synergy, because Electric terrain boosts electric moves, and there's Pokemon like Alolan Raichu who increase their speed on electric terrain. I was 16th overall pick, and I was definitely surprised to see Tapu Koko make it to me, and I was very close to selecting Tapu Koko and leaning towards Mono Electric. However, that was not the case, and I ended up going with Mono Ice. So this season, I wanted to make sure something during the draft process that was kind of plagued me in the last two drafts I've done in the VDL, which is I wanted to value the Pokemon I considered most must-haves early and draft them early rather than wait to when I think they might be optimally to pick throughout the draft. Because the previous season I missed Gyarados because as I picked it up, I was planning on picking up later than I should have. The season before I missed Moltres Galar because of the same reason that I'm like, oh, I can just save it. It's more likely to come back to me. And this season I definitely said I only want to pick Pokemon that are considered must-haves early on. And so here are some of the ice Pokemon that I consider incredibly important. So the top two are non-replaceable Pokemon in my mind. Ninetales, which I believe is by far the best Hell Setter. In addition to that, it has a fighting immunity. It has 109 base speed. It can set up Aurora Bell. And then Arctovish, which I think is by far the best Slush Rush Pokemon. Getting double speed in the Hell is incredibly relevant. And its water coverage, specifically Fishious Wren, deals with a lot of major issues that ice have, namely in fire and rock Pokemon. So below that, we have a couple of double Pokemon that I don't need both of them. I need one of these specifically that I felt were 100% necessary, which are either Weavile, Sneasel, Piloswine or Mamoswine, or Mr. Rhyme or Mr. Mime. The main reason behind Weavile and Sneasel is very fast Mon, and in addition to very fast Mon, they'll be fast fake out users. They also have other good support moves like Feint, Taunt, and things like that. These Pokemon are both of them. Either one would be the fastest Pokemon team, with Weavile at 120 base speed and Sneasel at 115 base speed. Mamoswine and Piloswine are mainly for offensive damage into rock and steel mons. In addition, defensively, they have thick fat, so they take neutral damage to fire. They take neutral damage to rock coverage. And then and Mr. Rhyme and Mr. Rhyme, the main reason they're important is from Trick Room. In addition to having auto set up Trick Room, they also defensively are neutral to fighting, do super effective damage into fighting, and they have fake out as well. And then finally, there is Glastrier. I don't actually think this is an important mon to draft in the general sense for my team composition. However, it is the only tier 1 ice Pokemon, and I am required to draft tier 1 ice Pokemon, so it is important in that sense. So with that, let's get into my draft. So overall, I decided to start with Ninetales Alola. Like I said, Ninetales Alola I think was incredibly important. It is by far the best Hell Setter. Hell is going to be very important this season because it damages my opponent's Pokemon while not damaging mine. I'm going to have a lot of Pokemon with Slush Rush, Ice Body, other abilities like that benefit from the Hell being up. I can set up screens with Aurora Bell, which can help increase the bulk of my Pokemon. And in addition to that, it gives me 100% accurate blizzards, which pretty much every Pokemon on my team have blizzard. And so, in addition to the kind of the other things that I was saying, which is its fairy typing can be very relevant. So that's kind of the main idea with that. So the next one, I decided to go with Weavile as my pick. I thought Weavile seemed like very likely to be taken, and in addition to that, I think having a very fast and good fake out mon seems important. I at some point was considering the difference between Weavile and Sneasel. So Weavile does more damage and is faster. However, Sneasel is a lower tier, so it gives me some more flexibility with my draft. In addition, Sneasel has Inner Focus. I decided against Sneasel because I did want the extra damage and the extra speed. And Inner Focus, its main strength, generally speaking, is being able to not get flinched by rock slides and not be flinched by fake outs. And Weavile being faster than any other fake out user basically makes it not have to worry about fake out. So I decided to go with Weavile as the pick there. It's going to be my fastest Pokemon, and it's hopefully going to be pretty good support. Next, I went with Arctovish. Like I said, Arctovish is pretty much irreplaceable as a Slush Rush user. It's the only Slush Rush user that is a water type, and in addition to that, Vicious Rend does massive damage if you outspeed. It's also very bulky, and the Water Ice type is actually a very good type for me because it takes Steel coverage and Fire coverage neutrally. And so I kind of made sure to pick it earlier, which is definitely very early because there was not any other people who were drafting any Hell at the moment in this point of the draft. But I because it is so irreplaceable on my team, I decided to draft it earlier than I might have in previous drafts because I wanted to make sure not to miss it. Following up next, we decided to go with Mr. Rime. So I was strongly debating between the strengths of Mr. Mime and Mr. Rime. Mr. Rime has higher special attack, so it does more damage. And in addition to it, has higher base stats in general. However, Mr. Mime has the ability to hold an Eviolite, which makes it significantly bulkier than Mr. Rime. However, Mr. Rime's increased damage also comes with it having a lower base speed, which is good because Mr. Rime is going to be my only Pokemon that's going to be able to set up Trick Room. And so I decided that Mr. Rime seemed more prevalent. So next up, we decided to go with Piloswine. Like I said previously, I think ground ice is really important for me, especially with a thick fat mon like Piloswine. Piloswine now can take neutral damage from fire with thick fat. In addition to that, it takes neutral damage to rock, super effective damage with ground into steel and rock, which are big issues. This was definitely my biggest issue of debating and whether or not I wanted Piloswine or Mamoswine. Piloswine with the Eviolite is significantly bulkier than Mamoswine. Mamoswine is notably faster and has pretty significantly higher attack stat. However, they both basically have the same bulk, and so with an Eviolite, Piloswine ends up getting about 50% bulkier, which means it survives a lot more hits and can be a lot more relevant. In addition, its speed tier allows it to be a Trick Room mon if I wanted to. And on top of that, Mamoswine is a tier 2 mon and Piloswine is a tier 3 mon. And so drafting Piloswine, like I did, allowed me to draft another tier 2 mon, which I'll talk about it later, but it ends up being Durmanitan, Glarion Dermanitan. Continuing on, I decided to go with Aurorus. So this was a little bit against what I kind of said at the beginning, which my main game plan, which I did not draft what I consider the 100% necessary Pokemon on my team, which was Glastrier here. I decided to pick Aurorus. The reason why I picked Aurorus is because I think it was the best tier 5 Pokemon. In addition to that, it gives me another Hell Setter, so I can switch in Hell Setters if in case someone has somebody day or things like that. In addition, it can take neutral damage from fire and has super effective stab damage into fire Pokemon as well. It's not, I don't think, the best Pokemon in my team, and which is probably why maybe I drafted it a little bit earlier than I should have, but I definitely think it was by far the best option in the tier 5s. Next up, we picked up Glastrier, like I said. Glastrier, I don't think is 100% a key component of my team based on its strengths, but it was necessary because it needed as a tier 1. However, I do think it's pretty solid. Its 30 base speed allows me to actually have a very good Trick Room speed tier if I want to focus on Trick Room any given week. In addition, it is incredibly bulky and has very good attack. And so with that kind of combination, I can theoretically use it for Assault Vest variants, or if I set up like Aurora Veil, it can be really hard to deal with and can, do massive damage. And with its ability, Chilling Neigh, it increases its attack every time it kills something, so it can snowball very quickly. No pun intended. Continuing on, we have our next pick, which is Durmanitan, Glarion Dermatan. So this was our tier 2 that we were allowed to pick up exclusively because we picked up Paloswine instead of Mamoswine. Glarion Durmanitan is incredibly powerful offensively. It has 130 base attack with the ability Gorilla Tactics, which gives it a 50% increase in damage. However, it doesn't allow it to change moves, and so it's a perfect mon to hold Choice Scarf or Choice Band. And with Choice Band or Choice Scarf, this Pokemon can either outspeed and do massive damage, or is probably one of the most powerful attacking mons you can get with a Choice Band. In addition to that, it does have very good coverage. It has fighting, ground, fire coverage. It gets bug coverage. It gets rock coverage. And so it definitely has a lot of good strengths. The main downside with it is it's a little bit predictable. However, I do have the ability to run it with its secondary ability called Zen Mode, which allows it, once it gets below 50% HP, it can become a fire ice type and become even more offensively powerful and becomes even faster. And so I may try to use that at some point during the season. We'll see. Maybe with some sort of substitute set, or maybe a focus sash set. However, I am somewhat hoping that I'll be able to use it a little bit more exciting than just Choice Scarf. However, even just if I run Choice Scarf every week I use it, it is a very powerful mon. Next up, we decided to go with Rotom. So Rotom is an electric ice mon, which gives me a neutral to electric. In addition, water is a type that resists ice coverage, so electric coverage can be helpful at dealing with some ice Pokemon. In addition, I do have a couple of Pokemon that I'm planning on being weak to ground, and so its Levitate is somewhat relevant. And overall, Rotoms are just very good stat mons. They have pretty reasonable special defense and pretty reasonable bulk, and they have some nice move pools like Will-O-Wisp, Trick, in addition to like Electro Web, Thunderbolt, Eerie Impulse, and so they can be very supportive mons. Continuing on, we decided to go with Frostlass. Frostlass is a fighting immune Pokemon, which is pretty relevant. In addition to that, it's 110 speed, base speed, is the second fastest on my team, only behind Weavile. It's a very good mon to possibly just run out there and do Icy Wind to slow my opponent's team. It also gets moves like Will-O-Wisp and Poltegeist and Triple Axle. And so hopefully, it can be pretty impactful in that. And then finally, we went with Beartic as our final pick. So Beartic is another Slush Rush user, which has very high offenses. However, after the draft, I kind of was sitting in the situation of which of these do I like. So these are both Pokemon, Beartic and Sandslash-Alola, that are Slush Rush users. They both have pretty reasonable attack. However, Beartic has higher attack. Sandslash has the Steel typing in addition to the Ice typing, which means it takes moves from fire coverage and fighting coverage worse than Beartic. However, it takes rock coverage and steel coverage better than Beartic. The Sandslash is faster than Beartic, which can be relevant. And in the end, I think that was the big deciding factor of why I decided to, in grace period, switch to Alolan Sandslash, because I think being able to outspeed a specific speed tier, which specifically Sandslash can outspeed 100 base speed Pokemon with Choice Scarf, where Beartic can't. And I decided that was relevant enough, in addition to the rock neutralness, as being worth it. And so in the end, this is my team. I feel reasonably good about my team. However, I think one thing I kind of didn't really mention is very few people picked ice Pokemon until the very end. So this is very close to not if exactly the team I had in prep before the start of before my first pick. Pretty much no one picked any Pokemon I was really interested in, or that I was considering drafting really, and or if they did, I had the ability to draft them and show something else over them. And so I'm definitely hoping to do well with the team. I have some very good fast Pokemon. I have a Trick Room component. I have fairly good coverage on all my Pokemon. And hopefully with this, we can do well this season. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.